What we are witnessing here is the tyranny of government.
I no longer recognize Haverford Township.
I have never heard more hate come out of a township than I've heard in the past 5 days.
I do not recognize my home.
Antifa destroying communities, how it starts. This is the video version of this webpage, for which there is a link in the description. Introduction. A dirty politician cites a township's public policy, quote, ensuring that all persons are treated fairly and equally and that all persons enjoy the full benefits of citizenship, unquote, as a justification for blatantly treating a man unfairly and with inequality and for denying him the full benefits of citizenship. Left is right, up is down, and an international and ethnically diverse group of anti-authoritarians are somehow fascist white nationalists. Clown world, ladies and gentlemen, clown world. Clowns to the left of us, jokers to the right, but I am happy to be stuck in the middle with you. Especially you, Tabby. Aww. Special thanks to you, Tabby. Also, special thanks to Kalina for her special support. Thank you, Kalina, for your help. And thank all of you folks.
You folks, what you did to the Bonaire Fire Company is despicable. It truly is. Because some kid had a different thought about a group than you folks did, and so therefore you pulled the trigger on the fire company. If you can do that and get away with it, who's next? Who's next? Another fire company? What if I had an association with a group who you folks didn't like? What happens to me? What, do I get banished from the township? I've been in this township for 65 years, guys. My family's been in this township for 75 years. And to do what you did to that Bonaire Fire Company is absolutely deplorable. I don't know how you can look yourselves in the mirror.
As absurd as this is, I want you to think about what the following means for the future if we let it. This is the canary in the coal mine warning us of danger. Ignore it at your peril and the peril of your community. September 4th, 2:11 p.m. Breaking. Haverford shutting down the Bonaire Fire Company over members linked to extremist group. Philip Herron, by the way, is the editor of the Delaware County Daily Times, the county where the story we're discussing takes place. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, quote, the controversy surrounding McClay began in mid-August when an anti-fascist activist,
Antifa,
We know this was an Antifa dox,
notified Haverford officials of the Volunteers Association with a local chapter of the Proud Boys, unquote. This is how it starts. Respectable members of the community slandered and libeled based on nothing but lies, fired, expelled, evicted, or forced to resign. Modern day McCarthyism. Contemporary witch hunts, a new Red Scare, not the red of communism, but the red of the MAGA hat. Recently, a firehouse was closed down after being accused of and investigated by police for the crime of, well, nothing. No one was even accused of a crime. It was because a volunteer at that company almost joined a men's club about a year ago that has been, and continues to be, scapegoated and demonized and lied about repeatedly because, as Hitler's minister of propaganda knew, when a lie is repeated often enough, idiots believe it. So, because Proud Boys equals Nazis, when this guy almost joined that club about a year ago, gotta shut down the firehouse. Ultimately, it's a little more complicated than that, but we'll see.
There's been torches and pitchforks running through this town like this guy was the second coming of Adolf Hitler.
Mass hysteria.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Something our species is prone to. Moral panics. Children have died of mysterious illness. We don't know why. The Jews must have poisoned the well. Let's take our torches and pitchforks into the ghetto and kill some Jews. Inquisitions!
Oh, I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Secret heretics everywhere. Turn in your neighbor and your brother. Root out the evil. Slay the infidels wherever you find them. They hide among you. The crops fail. Witches! They hide in plain sight. Find them. Burn them. Get your white hoods, get a rope and meet us by the hanging tree. We're gonna lynch ourselves a black man. He made a pass at one of our white women. Or at least some black man did. Who cares? Hang them. Commies everywhere. Smear them in the press. Ruin their careers forever even if they're merely accused and never proven guilty of anything. Suspicion is sufficient. Dare you question? Why would you question unless you're a commie too? Satanic panic? Teachers abusing your children in satanic rituals in secret underground chambers beneath the schools. Satanic backward messages, backmasking, secret messages in heavy metal music that your children listen to, driving them to suicide. And now, Trump derangement syndrome, which is a mere symptom of a greater disease some call progressivism or political correctness or cultural Marxism or regressive leftism, and related symptoms in which, for example, an ethnically diverse, moderately right libertarians men club is demonized as being, fascist or whatever. On one level, by the way, this is about the destruction of men's initiation clubs. It's a natural feature of our species since before recorded history, and of course, it goes for women too. It's just something we've always done. This is coming from the same animosity behind the destruction of the Boy Scouts. And it's not about equality, it's about destruction. Proud Boys are called white nationalists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and so on. It's a emperor wears no clothes situation. No one sees any clothes, but they all agree to lie to each other and to themselves and to believe each other's lies and to say that the emperor wears clothes. No one sees any clothes, but they say the Proud Boys are guilty anyway.
Through my research, I have found the accusations that the Proud Boys are a white supremacist, neo-fascist extremist group to be false exaggerations made by their ideological opponents.
Antifa and their establishment cronies.
I did a lot of research on Proud Boys, and I don't know if you guys are aware, but the president is Hispanic. He's Cuban. Enrique Tario. That is his name. Sure. How is it that a white supremacist group can be filled with a bunch of Hispanics? The entire Florida chapter are Hispanics.
Who, why, what, when, where? On December 4th, 2019, Post 24/7 reported that the Bon Air Fire Company in Pennsylvania was closed, ultimately because a volunteer was accused of being associated with a certain group. This group is often accused of being a hate group, an extremist group, far-right, or white nationalist, fascist, Nazi, etc. According to NBC 10 Philly, the fire company was blindsided by the announcement of their closure by the township. September 4th, 2019, Post 24/7 reported, quote, officials in Haverford Township in Delaware County were informed on August 12th that a volunteer with the Bon Air Fire Company was affiliated with, quote, an organization described as an extremist group, unquote, the township's manager David Berman wrote in a statement released Thursday. And that would be Thursday, August 29th. Quote, the township immediately launched an investigation which included interviewing the volunteer who admitted he was involved with the Proud Boys, Berman said. The volunteer revealed he had attended social gatherings hosted by the group and had passed 2 of the group's 4 initiation steps, quote, which includes hazing, unquote. Berman's statement quoted the group's, quote, self-proclaimed basic tenet, unquote, posted on their website that they are, quote, Western chauvinists who refused to apologize for creating the modern world, unquote. Unquote. As if there was something wrong with that. A Western chauvinist would be someone who is partial to the West. And why not? Western civilization is the least sexist, the least racist, the least homophobic, the least bigoted culture on Earth. These people, who are like cancer cells, wittingly or not, are attacking the most just, least bigoted culture on Earth, and some of its proud proponents, in this case, the Proud Boys, or just someone who almost joined the Proud Boys a year ago. And the whole fire company, actually. What am I thinking? The article then goes on to note that the SPLC says that the Proud Boys are bad people, you know, they're baddies, they're evil, without ever mentioning that the SPLC itself has recently had to apologize for lying about people and organizations and for racism from the highest levels in their racket. Organization. They've had to do retractions, they're being sued, etc. The SPLC is not a credible source. While the volunteer, quote, indicated that he had attempted to distance himself from the group in recent months, unquote, Berman and a police official met with Bon Air Fire Company officials on August 14th to address, quote, the seriousness of this matter and urged the fire company to address it. Medios One reported, quote, what we found was not to the liking and to the ideology of Haverford Township, unquote, said Haverford Township Police Chief John Viola. The group wasn't confirmed by Viola, but it is believed to be the Proud Boys. It's a group that only admits men and describes itself as quote-unquote Western chauvinists. Their values include closed borders, anti-political correctness, and a regression of women's rights.
That's not true.
That last claim.
That's not true at
that
all.
last claim right there is, that's new to me. That's kind of creative of this one source.
They treat their wives and girlfriends better than a lot of women get treated. So
they are venerated. That's what they do. They say, if you go to the website or listen to them talk, they say they venerate the housewife. They
love their wives, their women. They don't care if their wives work. It's what they want to do, so that's what they're gonna do. You know, right. Half their wives are ball busters. They just love it. They're like, my wife can kick someone's ass, and it's awesome. Yeah. Some of them like the prom queen, but I'd still be afraid of her if she got a gun in her hand, because that bitch can shoot straight as hell. You know?
Yeah.
She looks pretty doing it is all.
I contacted Medios One, and I asked them, where are you getting that from? That's even, you know, like, okay, the rest of it is coming from the SPLC and the ADL and Antifa and all this, but this regression of women, that's new to me. Yeah. And, you know, I've been doing this stuff for a while. I've been doing these in-depth videos about accusations against the Proud Boys for quite a while now, right?
I think that's going to be news to most. Well, they call themselves Western chauvinists.
Well, a chauvinist you can be a chauvinist to anything. Okay, hold on. That's it. A quick lesson in the English language. You might think that a Western chauvinist is a Western sexist because you think the word chauvinism equals sexism. That is not correct. You might think this because the word chauvinism has been couched between male and pig so often, you know, male chauvinist pig, that we think that chauvinism means sexism. Be that as it may, there is no excuse for such laziness. Look the word up. Chauvinism equals partiality. As in being partial to something, as in favoring something over other things. Those who love Harley-Davidson motorcycles and scoff at other motorcycles could be called Harley chauvinists. A person who thinks men are better than women would be a male chauvinist. A person who thinks women should be above men would be a female chauvinist. And those who think that equal rights of every individual, freedom of religion, free speech, and so on are better than the lack of such things are Western chauvinists. So before you once again say or suggest that Western chauvinism is a bad thing, realize that what you're actually saying is that freedom and equality are bad things. As we were saying, according to Medios One, Police Chief John Viola says that they investigated and that what they found was not to their liking. Now, beside the highly questionable ability for these police to tell the difference between fact and bullshit, or their ass from their elbow, why were they even involved? What the goddamn hell? Why were the police even involved? What crime do they suspect was even committed, other than
thought crime?
That's not a real crime, but, you know.
In short, you sought his resignation because, in your view, he committed a thought crime.
Medios One also reported, quote, he admitted that he was a member, unquote, said Viola. Quote, he attended 2 sessions with them, he did some hazing with them, and then he said he tried to pull away from them a little bit, but he never said he resigned from them, unquote. Now, At least according to the source, this police chief is saying that the man admitted he was a member.
That's not entirely accurate.
What? Which part?
But all the other sources are saying that the guy took 2 steps through the initiation process, never went to the 3rd or the 4th, which were required to become a member. We'll try to get to the bottom of it, folks. We're going to call the police chief and other people involved and see what this is really all about, what's really going on here, what's the truth and what's not. Post 24/7 reported, quote, Berman said he was informed the next day that the volunteer had offered his resignation, but the Bon Air Fire Company chief had refused to accept it. This guy's at least standing up to this madness. A week later, Berman said he received an email that said the fire company's board had, quote, found no basis for terminating the volunteer's membership, unquote. Note, the Philadelphia Inquirer, in reporting on the same email, it seems, I'm not sure, but it seems, says the fire company's attorney sent the email to the town solicitor and that it was on August 22nd. Getting back to Post 24/7's report, quote, the email included no indication that the fire company would take any action whatsoever, unquote, Berman's statement said. Quote, the Bon Air Fire Company's failure to address this matter conflicts with the public policy of Haverford Township, which includes, unquote, warning. You may want to swallow any liquid that you might be drinking right now, folks. You might spit it out, laughing, or you might choke on it, alright? You quote, ensuring that all persons are treated fairly and equally. And that all persons enjoy the full benefits of citizenship, unquote. Why in the world they chose to cite that which they are so obviously guilty of violating is indication of absolute blindness. Further down they write, quote, the statement said the company had investigated the volunteer's involvement with the, quote, outside organization, unquote, and found that he had, quote, limited interactions, unquote, with the group that he had ultimately decided not to join. Quote, he never attended any rallies or protests, and he dissociated himself from the group more than 1 year ago, unquote, the statement said. The volunteer, a 6-year veteran with the company, was not identified in the statements from the company or the township. The volunteer was recently honored by the Bon Air Fire Company, quote, has always acted as a caring person dedicated to serving his community, unquote, and, quote, has not acted in any way which suggests his behavior would be influenced by this organization, unquote, the statement said. Quote, for these reasons, the fire company decided not to terminate the services of the volunteer, unquote. The statement written by two attorneys lamented the closure of the station and said the township was depriving the community of 37 firefighters and 3 fire trucks during emergencies. About 800 of Haverford Township's fewer than 50,000 residents live in Bon Air. The statement from the fire company urged residents to, quote, please let their commissioner know that the township is wrong to close the Bon Air Fire Company, unquote, unquote. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported on this and libeled the Proud Boys as, quote, far right, unquote. They also claimed that Haverford Commissioner Steve D'Amelio, if I'm saying that correctly, said, quote, listen, they represent the township, unquote, and, quote, even though they're a volunteer group, they represent the township, and you can't have someone who represents the township belonging to any hate groups. You can't have it, unquote. CBS 3 Philly reported on September 4th and September 5th that according to their sources, McClay, who dared to consider joining the Proud Boys, was also the vice president of the fire company. But according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, he was the vice president of the board of directors and a lieutenant. CBS 3 Philly reported that this all stemmed from an anonymous tip. Medios 1 reported that on August 14th, quote, an anonymous tip came in about a firefighter's affiliation with a hate group, unquote, according to the township police chief, John Viola. But remember, as we saw earlier, that the Philadelphia Inquirer reported that it started when an, quote, anti-fascist activist notified Haverford officials of the Volunteers Association with the local chapter of the Proud Boys, unquote. According to CBS 3 Philly, quote, the president of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners, Andy Lewis, released a statement on the issue saying, quote, as individuals and public officials, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to ensure that no tax dollars are used to support an individual or organization that is discriminatory in any way, unquote, unquote.
You hypocrites!
You have to fight discrimination with discrimination.
Wow.
Your own words condemn your actions.
And they're not even fighting discrimination. They
know.
say they are.
I know.
They're just discriminating. They're just discriminating. That's it.
Was law enforcement used to investigate a man who was not accused of a crime or suspected of any crime? And if it was, we'd like to know how that comes about.
CBS 3 Philly also reported that Police Chief Viola said that the matter was assigned to a deputy chief who, quote, did a full background investigation and found there was no criminal activity at all, unquote, unquote. Why the police were even investigating
Somebody not accused of a crime, not suspected of a crime.
I don't even know what to say about that, but it's not okay. It does not bode well, that's for sure.
This has torn this town apart, and I'm heartbroken. There's good people in this town. This is the most polarized I've ever seen it.
CBS 3 Philly reports, quote, Viola says the matter was then turned over to the Board of Commissioners. The board suggested the firefighter resign. He tried to, but the Bon Air Fire Company's board refused his resignation. So on Wednesday night, the township officials met in executive session, unquote. Unlike other aforementioned sources, CBS 3 Philly is reporting that it could be reopened if they submit to the mob. Quote, quote, the township manager's decision was that we would remove the fire apparatus from the Bon Air Fire Company and shut them down temporarily until this can be resolved, unquote, Viola said. The closure is indefinite. There is no word on if the fire station could reopen, unquote. The Atlanta Black Star reported that Haverford Township Board Commissioner Larry Holmes told local station WPVI, quote, going through initiation with the Proud Boys, associating yourself with the Proud Boys, that is disqualifying in Haverford Township if you're going to have a Haverford Township uniform on, unquote, unquote. The fire company put out this statement on September 5th, for which there is a link in the webpage version of this video, but let us read some of it. Quote, in closing the fire company, the township failed to identify a single instance in which that volunteer's service to the Haverford community were negatively influenced in any way by his brief association with the outside organization. In refusing the township's demands to terminate the service of the volunteer, the fire company treated the volunteer as we treat all Haverford citizens, fairly and equally. You see, they get it. They understand that these propagandists are taking the whole fair and equal thing and trying to twist it around. They continue, this was a difficult process which required much introspection. Some of the bedrock rights we all share as American citizens are the rights to freely assemble and to freely associate with others. Unfortunately, our beliefs in those constitutional rights are sometimes tested when the groups in question espouse beliefs with which we do not agree. When the fire company became aware of this volunteer's interactions with the outside organization, we acted on this information by first conducting an investigation. The investigation revealed that the volunteer is not now, nor ever was, a member of the outside organization. While the volunteer attended some social gatherings of the outside organization, the volunteer ultimately decided, after he learned more about the group's beliefs, that he did not wish to become part of the organization. He never attended any rallies or protests, and he dissociated himself from the group more than a year ago. He has broken no law and committed no crime, unquote. It is refreshing that this fire company stood up for this guy, stood up and did the right thing in this social climate in which those who do the right thing are attacked by the media, politician, Antifa, social justice warriors, and other sociopaths. Is it not good that they stood up for this guy and said, no, you didn't do anything wrong? We're not going to accept his resignation because he didn't do anything wrong.
He didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they're the ones doing something wrong. You're actively trying to publicly lynch somebody.
Yeah, but isn't it refreshing to see a fire company in this case, just someone, standing up and saying, no, he didn't do anything wrong. We're not going to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Right? But wait.
Slow down.
I spoke too soon.
Oh, no.
Sorry, folks, that's the end of this episode.
Son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. You no good.
Son of a gun. You thought I was going to say son of a bitch, didn't you?
I know it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but there you go. Make sure you are subscribed on BitChute and click that little bell icon. We may never have another YouTube video. YouTube wants to shut us down, and it's going to happen sooner or later anyway, so subscribe to us on BitChute. See the links below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Liberty, strength, honor, honesty, integrity, laughter, justice, truth, and love.